appreciate that. What kind words. He left out some of my better attributes. You forgot the 7 years I spent in high school to help me do this job.
Only 7?
Hey, well, and through the California school system. So what more could
That says it all.
that says it all. Yeah, so I'm qualified, right? Well, gosh, you know, this is awesome. Joni and I watched the elections that you guys did the other day. You know, man, the next morning we stayed up late. We watched Trump's speech. Got up the next morning. We had slept well, but we were damaged the rest of the day. We were so mentally drained, and we got to talking. We think that's been these elections have been such a burden on us, and you know, praying for our country, praying for our kids, our grandkids, and then we finally won. It was nice to be able to take a deep breath, you know. But later in the evening, we did have fun watching television. The political pundits point fingers at each other, whining. I did
Still doing it.
Jimmy Fallon. Watch him cry.
Oh, that was fun. Jimmy Kimmel, yeah.
So anyway, it's a lot better now. And I want to introduce I always call her my first wife, Joni. And Solomon says the duty of a father is to leave an inheritance to his children's children. And so we have 9 grandkids now. That was at 28 years old. I believe, you know, you have to remember the 7 deadly sins: pride, greed, lust. Sloth was the one that interests me. Slothfulness, for those of you who don't know, it means spiritually lazy. You don't ever come up to the question, who put me here on earth and for what purpose?
Ooh.
And I believe the purpose was I was supposed to leave an inheritance to my kids. So I thought, I'll leave this one $5. I like it. I'll leave this one $10. But actually, as I got to think about that, that goes beyond just the financial aspect, but it's about freedom of religion, freedom of property rights, just like our Constitution guarantees. So I thought, man, at first I thought that was an easy assignment, but as I've grown, it's one of the reasons that led me into business as well as politics, because I felt I needed money to make money, because I didn't think people would give me contributions back then. So I got into politics, and it's been really good. And so the other thing too is I just want to say, so you guys think I'm really smart, I feel like what we can be unburdened by what has been.
Yes! The significance of the passage of time.
And then also, so there's times I have thought maybe California is, well, we are on life support systems. I never thought we were dead. But you know, a lot of these counties turn, they flip for Trump, and Trump is up to around 42% of the state. Do you realize the Republican Party only has about 24% registered voters? That means he crossed party lines, guys.
Yeah,
Yes, he did.
So I'm enthusiastic, you know, hope the good Lord has a purpose for all of us, for me in this party. And when I say for all of us, here's what I mean by that. It's not the politicians' fault how bad this country is. Constitution does not start off by saying we the politician. That says we the people. So it's up to us. The next sentence says a government of, by, and for the people. Then when you go to that first, Lincoln said that the Constitution rests upon the Declaration, meaning the Declaration is the foundation. The first time ever in a political document it states to secure these rights, governments are instituted amongst men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. We give our consent how we want to be ruled. We've got to take it back. Those politicians, we have to put them in their place and remind them that they work for us and not against us. Can I get one more here? I love that.
Whenever you say something great, I'll say that.
Thank you. I won't be hearing that too much tonight.
Say something great again.
Say something again. So anyway, there are a couple of things I do want to talk about saving our state, how we're going to do that.
Yes.
And I'm going to share a few things what I'd like to do, but I want to share what we the people are going to do. Because remember when Franklin walked out of that Constitution Hall, he was asked by a lady, he said, what kind of government do you have? And she says, he said, a republic if you can keep it.
Yeah.
And I just want to make a note. I know all of you guys probably know this, but I had a friend here tonight ask me to remind everybody, the Democrats like to call us a democracy, which is fine. That's the will of the people. But the founders knew the republic went one step further, that it protects the minority's interests equally as the majority, and that's really important. So we want to remind those people. They want to co-opt that word democracy. We want to try to make sure we use the republic, because that's one step higher. That matter of fact, when we go back, and I don't mean to talk too much about history, but the whole thing on the Lincoln-Douglas debates was over the 10th Amendment. Remember, Stephen Douglas wanted the states' rights, 10th Amendment. Lincoln recognized the fact that according to the natural law, that if slavery was wrong in one state, it was wrong in all the states.
Yes.
You know, so therefore, he wrote a letter, I remember reading, saying, have nothing to do with popular sovereignty. Here's what that translates today. Have nothing to do with polls. He says, because right makes might. We have to continue to do what's right. We just have to get better in communicating our message. We got to get like Ronald Reagan, right? So,
Here.
so there's two things you shouldn't talk about. When I was growing up, my dad used to say is religion and politics, right? But if a casual study of the last 5,000 years has shown us anything, the majority of ways men oppress other men and either send them into 1,000 years of bondage or set them free are through those two institutions. Those are the two most important things to talk about. So we can't be shy. Second of all, George Washington was asked, what's the genius and success of America? I love his answer. He said it's the first time in all of human history where the best of Jerusalem intersected Athens. Jerusalem, the home of religion. Athens, the home of politics. So
Yes.
George, he knew I was right, I guess, right? So anyway, so we need to do that and not be shy of those things, because our country's in a little bit of problems. Here's what, there's a lot of good things going on. As I mentioned, Trump's won. Looks like we're going to keep the House. We've got the Senate.
Yes.
I think our work's just the beginning, guys.
Right.
The worst time we can do is wait. We don't want to take our foot off the gas right now.
No.
Because these guys are not going to give up. Evil doesn't sleep. They're 24/7, right? And these guys are evil. I was just reading a quote from Karl Marx, not Groucho Marx, but it was Karl Marx. What's the difference? And he said, listen to this, because this is how they act. He said, when you're going against your opponents, accuse them of the evils you're doing.
Yes.
Do they not do that, ladies and gentlemen?
Sal Alinsky.
Sal Alinsky, him too.
That's what children do.
That's what children do. And by the way, I'll get into that again later, but I am very confident things are on the move, I believe.
Yes.
Churchill says when there's great causes moving in the universe, we learn that we're not animals, but we're spirits, and there's something going on in time and space and beyond time and space, which, whether we know it or not, spells duty. And so we have a duty, again, not just to us, but for future generations. So matter of fact, this is probably the neatest thing that's ever happened to me, other than marry my wife and have a kid, right? But you guys have just been gracious tonight, and I didn't thank everybody. Hope, Hal, I meant to thank you for putting this together. Hope does a good job. Where's Big John? And a host of a whole lot of other people helping out. Lenore. Thank you, Lenore. Thank you. And then Susan for opening her house. Thank you. So, let me go on. So I think we're going to experience some rough seas. I really do. We have to be ready, just the founders did, with a firm reliance upon the protection of divine providence to mutually pledge to each other our very lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Amen.
I believe. If that's for me, tell them I'm giving a speech and I'll leave. Don't worry about it.
It's God bless the USA by ringtone.
I'm just here to give you a hard time. It's my job. Here, here.
That's right.
Thank you.
Good starting point.
Yeah. And so the first thing I want to start at, we need to pray for our country, right?
Yes.
Now, a lot of times people don't want to pray, but here's the thing. You talk to any soldier that was in World War II or the Korean War, they will tell you when you're in a foxhole, there are no atheists, right? They're praying for their very survival of their life. I think we're in a foxhole, ladies and gentlemen. A foxhole. Can you hear me now back there?
Yes.
Yep.
You want me to start over from 10 minutes ago? You sure?
There it is.
So anyway, and by
That's
the way,
it.
I want to read what our founder of our
Yes.
Revolutionary War, I love this guy, he was a man's man, Samuel Adams. Listen to what he says. He said, "We shall never be abandoned by heaven while we act worthy of its aid and protection." I love it because it's a conditional response. In other words, why we act worthy. So we've got a lot of work to do. We've got to restore that Constitution, which I reminded
Yes.
you guys early. And I'm kind of messing up my notes, but Ronald Reagan had a quote, and I want to quote him because we want sort of a picture of how we're going to treat these politicians. We're going to treat them nice and respect, but we're going to remind them, as Reagan said, that they're the car, we're the driver, we tell the car which way to go, right?
Yes.
Amen.
Amen.
So here's another thing too. People have asked me, what should I do? How can I get involved? There's a million things you can do, right? You can come here tonight. Has this been fun? Gosh. And there's people who say I have no friends, I'll tell you. You can put up signs, election integrity. So what I recommend is you pick the things that turn you on, that you want to do. You don't want to get involved in making phone calls if you don't like to make phone calls. Some people do. But what's one thing that we can all do that we must do? I am convinced of this.
Pray without ceasing.
Oh yeah, that's a good one too. But I already gave that one. The second thing is we have to speak out. Folks, look at words are important, they're powerful. When we're silent, it only emboldens evil. And let me share something about this politically correct speech. It's been around for thousands of years. And what it's designed to do, it's designed to shut other people up. In other words, they know they can't win the argument, so they make fun of you and they say things in hope to intimidate, and it keeps us quiet when we shouldn't be quiet.
Yes.
And so what I'm saying is we've already won the argument because they want to shut us up, because they can't beat us. Why should we be quiet? And by the way, I don't mean to get too biblical and stuff, but I love,
We need more of it.
Okay, so St. Paul, listen to this, in chapter 2 and chapter 1, I'll go 2 and then go backwards on chapter 1. He says God's written the divine law, the moral law on every person's mind and heart. You go back to chapter 1, he said, therefore they're without excuse because they know there's a God. Do you understand we've won the argument? But the thing is many of us are silent. I have people say we can't even talk to our kids anymore. Folks, we are told to tear down every pretension that sets itself up against God's knowledge, and we're to expose darkness. And so one of the things we can all do and we must do, we have to speak out. And one of the things, just transitioning what I'd like to do if I get elected, I did some research. We have about 350 clubs between the three, however many, 200 federated women, your club, the Tea Parties clubs, around those clubs, 66 or 67 CRAs. What's that?
She wanted to know what it was called.
Oh, okay.
CAGOP.
Yeah. So anyway, we have between 325 and 350 clubs. And I've been asking a number of them, has the Republican Party ever called you and asked for your help and your volunteers' help? I've gotten zero response, or I've gotten responses, but they've gotten zero help. They said, guys, we want to unite our party.
We're going to do it. It's coming.
Yeah, because we've got to get volunteers out there and working together. And it's real easy. We don't have to do a lot of things. I would like to see every club release half of them, and I can show clubs how to expand their membership because my prior life was in sales and marketing, so I've come up with a couple things that are actually very easy to do. But what we can do, we want to be able to sing from the same, be on the same sheet of music, doing the same message throughout California. Because a lot of times, like where I live, we got a paper that'll let you write an op-ed in Big Bear, Lake Arrowhead, down in Rancho Cucamonga. There's a small one. The big ones may not let you. But we got about 12 throwaway newspapers that we can write op-eds in. And same with all your communities. We should have every club. I'd like to see a couple of media people in there who are doing media things, getting out our message, because we can win, but we have to make the case. Ronald Reagan made the case. He articulated his views, he spoke well, and he always did it with a smile, a nod of the head, and a wink. So we have to be nice, but it's lazy if we try to argue. We have to win by understanding the issues and clearly communicating them. And so, again, I think there's a lot of room to grow. I think we can move the ball down the court, and I think there's opportunity here in California. And so anyway, we want to speak out. And let me give you a couple of things why we're to be fearless. When I look at all the politicians and statesmen throughout history, the ones that always take on the hardest issues go down in history as great. Because you see, history favors the bold and the brave. Right. Abraham Lincoln, 1857, Dred Scott, a slave, went to the Supreme Court to get himself free. He lost that case. The next year, Abraham Lincoln runs for the U.S. Senate against Stephen Douglas, and he makes the case to end slavery. Stephen Douglas says, let's go to the 10th Amendment. Lincoln loses that race. He still hadn't made the case. He comes back 2 years later. The Republicans, they had a swamp back then too. They didn't want him. It took 3 votes and some backroom deals for Lincoln to secure the nomination. And he did. He took that slavery issue on, and he goes down as one of the greatest presidents in all of human history, right? And again, he took the most difficult thing, and he was the one, I stated earlier, I love what he says, have nothing to do with popular sovereignty. Meaning, forget about what people say in the polls. We're just always going to stay on message, and we're going to do what's right, and we're going to stick to it, and we're going to win. Okay. Another thing, too, one more example I love. Sir Winston Churchill came out of whatever, and he read Hitler's book, Mein Kampf, right, in the 30s, and he knew Hitler was going to destroy, eventually, Europe. And so he talked out against Hitler. But the British people had come out of World War I, they were tired of war, so they gave Churchill the boot, brought in Chamberlain. Chamberlain made peace treaties, which that's what weak people do. We saw that with Biden and them, right? Our military's at an all-time low in recruiting. So anyway, Chamberlain made peace treaties. He made one too many with Hitler. Hitler invades Czechoslovakia, then he's on his way to France. And the British people knew they were next. Guess who they draft back in the service? Sir Winston Churchill. And so I think the thing is, those are lessons to us that we've got to speak out and we've got to be bold. And like I say, history does favor the bold and the brave, ladies and gentlemen. And so we've got to do that. A couple other things I want to go down. There's a lot of opportunities. I mentioned about bringing some of these clubs together and how many there were. One of the things I like to concentrate on, I don't think you need to do a whole lot of issues. Glenn Youngkin, I took a page from his playbook, governor who won in Virginia, a blue state. He only had 3 issues he won on. Number 1 was crime, because that transcends economic lines and racial lines, demographic lines. We all want safe neighborhoods. We do here, they do in Oakland, every place. We got to punish people who do wrong, right? Second of all, education. I mean, think about this. On education right now, the thing that drives me crazy is drag queen hour. You know, to think that you have grown men who call up elementary schools and say, hey, can we dance provocatively in front of your kids, right? That's a reprobate, depraved mind. We have to stop that. But here's the thing.
Yeah.
One of the things my daughter reminds me of, she used to be a college professor, and she doesn't do now. She homeschools the kid, but she reminds me, she says, Dad, this modern education isn't just about the sex thing. It's a Marxist ideology designed to separate the child from the parent and make that child a ward of the state. It must be stopped. And here's the thing. We better jump on that bandwagon, because that movement that we're seeing all across the United States, I believe it started here in California. Those people, that was not started by the Republican Party. That was not started by pastors. That's a grassroots movement. That's a we the people movement. That means Providence is on the move, because those who go across racial lines and they just want their kids to learn and no more being indoctrinated. And that's at a time when America used to be #1 in education. Now we're about number 34, and we're slouching towards a third world government, and they want their kids to be able to have a good education to compete in a global economy. So that's another issue I want to take on, because I don't think life's that hard. And another good thing too, Gavin Newsom, if you read, he's Gavin Newsom, our dictator. Okay, I like that word. You know, he's calling session back in because he wants to Trump-proof California. Look we've got one of the biggest deficits we've ever had.
Yep.
I mean, everything he touches turns to whatever, you know? And so I think he's going to do us a favor. He's going to step in it again, and we have to be prepared to pounce on that, guys. And we can do it. We can't be shy about those things. And those things are fun things to do too, by the way. So another thing too, I want to share, one of the last things, there's a lot of things that I'd like to get done, but we want to bring young people in, and people say that all the time. But here's what I want you to know. I've actually done it. When I went up to the Senate, the average senator will hire 1 or 2 interns per year. And so I thought, is there a limit on what you can hire? There was no limit. So I would hire, I would hire 30 interns per year, right? All colleges, yeah. And I didn't care if they were liberal or conservative. We trained them hard, we worked them well. But I felt obligated. Me and Nick Calero, my chief of staff, if any of you guys know him, we put together a great syllabus. And what the syllabus entails, and in some of your packets, I have 2 pages of that syllabus. It entails teaching about the Constitution, the Declaration, selective writings in the Federalist Papers, and the Great Northwest Ordinances. We teach them a little bit about Marcus Aurelius, Plato, Socrates, and all the great political thinkers, as well as Thomas Aquinas and some of those other guys. And so anyway, twice a year we would have these things where we would invite former interns to a dinner, just pizza, and current interns, and we would bill it for 2 hours from 6:30 to 8:30. The last 2 that we did, those young people stayed past midnight asking questions. And again, a lot of them weren't conservative, but here was the thing, it was great. This makes me encouraged too. One of the things, not the only thing, but one of the things they keyed in on, because remember, they're growing up during a time of moral relativism. There is no such thing as truth. And so they're in a time, and that second paragraph of the Declaration that says we hold these truths to be self-evident, right? And remember, there's self-evident truth all around this world. 8 billion people in the world, 8 billion people. You want me to start over from the beginning? So 8 million people in the world, and I have not seen one man yet that's actually conceived the baby, right? So, I mean, they say it, you know. But that's the natural law. That's not going to happen, right? And so anyway, they were really caught up in that. Well, you get your answer on that by the first paragraph. According to the laws of nature, nature's God, meaning God places the divine law that anybody can figure out within human history and in human nature. And by the way, I'm just going to make a side point, because I hope you guys like this, and then give me about 4 more minutes and I think I'll be done. But during Clarence Thomas's hearings, when there was a senator that asked him, if you're appointed to the bench, what's your framework for making decisions? And Clarence Thomas quoted the first paragraph of the Declaration, said, according to the laws of nature, and of nature's God. And that senator said, where did you get that from?
And who was that senator?
You guys take a guess who that senator was.
Yes.
It was Joe Biden. Now we know why he...
There you go, folks.
So anyway, yeah, I thought you'd get a kick out of that.
That's it.
So Dietrich Bonhoeffer, who here has heard of Dietrich Bonhoeffer? Good guy. So you guys, some of you do go to church, don't you? Randall, I would have never thought you. Anyway, so Dietrich Bonhoeffer was a young man, and he came to seminary in 1929 in New York, safe and sound, but he believed a person of faith should be where the flames are the hottest. So he returned to Nazi Germany, was fought in the resistance war, captured and tortured and eventually executed for his stand against Hitler. Where are the flames the hottest in the United States today, would you say?
Right here in California.
Right here in California. And as California goes, so goes the nation, right? And so here's what I think. I think if you're still here and you haven't U-hauled it out of here yet, perhaps Providence has you here for a purpose. Perhaps we're here to stand in a gap. And then another thing too, look at, I'm a little stubborn. Why should we leave this great state? Look at, I am willing to pay for one or two of those movie stars who say they're going to move out of state.
Please leave.
You can quote me. You can quote me on that. I'll take it out of Joni's piggy bank. So anyway, so listen, we want to draw the line in the sand, plant the flag, and say no more. This is our state. We're taking over. And besides, it is our state. And here's why. Think about this. This is the only state with 21 missions. Campus Crusade for Christ, World Vision, Focus on the Family, the Azusa Street Revivals were founded here. All the cities that start with the word San or Santa, male or female. Santa Clarita, San Francisco means saint, right? Sacramento means the city of sacraments. This, for sure, at one time was God's state. I'm convinced he wants it back, but it's up to you and me to do it, guys. Two more things to say, and then I'll shut up. Number one, getting back to Sir Winston Churchill, I love him, as you might imagine. Listen to this. He says wars are not won by evacuation. Okay? In other words, we stay and we fight. Okay, I want to close with this last thought because I think it's a great thought. Our son had the honor of clerking for Supreme Court Justice Clarence Thomas.
Oh, wow.
So I know you guys are thinking he gets his brains from his mom. So you would be right on that. So we went to visit Dave, and it was a rainy day, and he took us on the grand tour. And he even took us upstairs over the court. There's a full court basketball up there, in case you guys didn't know that. And I used to play basketball, so I got to play there. When I got home, I told some of my friends, I got to play basketball on the highest court in the land. And they were trying to guess if it was Denver or Alaska. It was kind of fun. But a little while later, he said, there's someone who wants to meet you, so let me take you into his office. And it was Justice Thomas. And so I want you to know, Joni and I, cumulative, spoke to him for about almost 3 hours. And I got up 3 times to leave because I wasn't trying to hog the conversation. He said, sit back down. And so he started out, he must have liked our boy David because he just, whatever, wanted to give me a hard time.
Wow.
Such a nice guy, too. I just don't get it. But he said, is Dave like you when it comes to money? And I said, yeah, he's like me. So Justice Thomas said, oh, so you think pennies are collector's items then? So anyway, he rattled off some jokes. He thought it was fun. But it was a beautiful day there. It was raining, but he has a wood-burning fireplace at the Supreme Court. So he was throwing logs on there. And so the conversation went from jokes to seriousness. And so towards the end, as a matter of fact, it's a memory Joni and I will always cherish, you know. And what a gentleman he is. Our daughter, I'm going to tell you this too, went by a couple of months later to see her brother and then went into the justice's office, and they've got a picture of Justice Thomas. They took their baby, I think it was Molly, and he's kissing Molly's feet, you know. Oh. So anyway, so here's the last thing I'll tell you. I said, I watched those hearings, how they raked you over the coals. After I did that, I looked to see how much you were going to get paid at the Supreme Court 30 years ago, and I think it was $159,000 or $161,000. I said, you could have gotten a job as a partner in a law firm for $1 million a year. And he said, I was offered $2 million a year. You know? And I said, why did you put up with that junk? I don't think I could have done it. Here's what he said to me, and this is what I want to close with tonight, and it's a good word for all of us. He said, well, the night before the final hearing, Jenny and I, that's his wife, sat down together and said, do we love America? And we thought about that and we agreed, we definitely do. The next question we asked each other, do we love America enough to die for her? And we both said, indeed we do. He said, therefore, whatever comes our way, we shall endure. And so tonight, that's my message. I think there's good things coming, but I don't think they're going to give up without a fight. I do think there's rough seas ahead, but that's my message tonight. Whatever we encounter, ladies and gentlemen, we too shall endure. And all of God's people said, Amen.